Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Firstly, I wish to thank all of you for having found time to come and be with us here as we celebrate the life of Justice Walia. I wish to also ask you that you excuse me, that I shouldn't go through the list of protocol which the Director of Ceremonies has already done. And with your permission, I wish to do so, if you agree. And we acknowledge every one of you here, but we have to single out the Walia family for having allowed us to have this ceremony and celebrate the life of our father. We thank them and we will thank them every day. I also wish to acknowledge the presence of the former Chief Justices, retired Chief Justices, Justice Ranwani and Justice Dubotelo. And maybe I should also acknowledge and appreciate the presence of the Honorable Minister and the State Honorable Minister of State in the Presidency, Caesar Mpasa, and the Permanent Secretary to the President and the Deputy, as well as the Honorable Attorney General. And I wish to thank each one of you who are here today. Justice Walia would not have preferred the way we are doing this today. He was a man who believed in silent, prayerful mourning. He didn't want people to be meeting and talking and doing all sorts of stuff in his name. But we also are saying to ourselves, we are gathered here because we want to celebrate his life. We want to celebrate the fact that he has been with us for many years. And we wish to learn from the experience that he has passed over to us. And also to say to ourselves, maybe and only maybe, what can also give us strength to live as long as he has lived. Because the time he has spent on this earth shows that God has been very gracious to him. And he has been very blessed in the years that he has spent with us, and he has served this country with aplomb. Now, you see, the work of a judge is not a simple task. And Justice Walia was one of those people who served this country as a judge. And normally, every one of us will have a different way of looking at Justice Walia. Some of you may say, in short, meaning that he was a judge who will shout at you, or that he was very, very strict. Others will say, no. He was a very humble judge. He will listen to you. He will give you the judgments that you want. Because mostly when you are and you don't agree with people, they don't think your judgment is good. But when you give a judgment that is against them, they think you are a bad judge. When you decide in their favor, you are a very good judge. So you will find that we will have different opinions about Justice Walia. Justice Walia was not only a judge, he was also a jurist, a father figure, he was a parent. I want to start off by giving you a short story. The story does not relate to Justice Walia, but I'm just giving you the story so that I put things in their perspective. My father had never been to school. People who interacted with my father thought that he was argumentative. And by this I don't mean that when you look at me, you should start saying, he's like his father. He's argumentative. So one of the days we were attending a funeral, and he was with one of his age mates, and they were arguing. They had an argument, they couldn't agree. Then this other gentleman said to him, when I get to Manganga. Then my father said to him, okay, fine. You say I'm argumentative. What about yourself? He said, no, I'm not. Then he said, then why don't you agree with me? Why don't you agree with me if you are not argumentative as I am? So if you are seated there and you think, oh, Justice Walia never agreed with me when I made submissions, the question then will be, why did you not yourself agree with him so that the argument can end? So that is how life is when you are a judge. But again, Justice Walia was a parent. I started working with Justice Walia in Francistown when he was working there as a judge. And he regarded me as one of his sons. He used to call me Mr. K. Normally, when you are a junior officer or a registrar or even an administrator, and you work with the judges, we used to fear them very much. And Justice Walia was one of those judges that you wouldn't go to him and ask for anything unless you really had good business to discuss with him. So there was this day when I went to him because I had to travel to Gaborone. I had an impending trip and I had to have some papers signed at the office of the president. And I didn't have a vehicle. It was not easy to go to a judge to say, my lord or my lady, can I use your vehicle to travel? But I went to Justice Walia because I regarded him as a parent, as a father. So I went to ask him that, no, Judge, can I use your vehicle? I have to travel to Gaborone. He said, okay, Mr. K, there's no problem. You can go with my vehicle, but please, don't overspeed. So I took his driver, and we were late. We left Francistown very, very late. And the driver had to speed up a bit. When we got to Palape, we nearly hit a donkey cart. On my return, I told Justice Walia that, no, I traveled well, my lord, but I was a bit late and we were speedy. Hey, how can you do that? I'm going to take my vehicle. Where's Mulefa? Mulefa is his driver. I'm going to take that vehicle from him. So I asked him, so Judge, are you going to drive yourself? He said, no, I'm going to keep the keys. I'm going to keep the keys. But at the end, I was there saying to myself, here is a judge who could allow me to use his own vehicle because he was a father figure. I then worked with Judge Walia in the Rules Committee. And, you know, there were four of us there in the Rules Committee. There was myself, Justice Liburu, His Worship Maredi Pate, and others. Justice Walia was the chairperson. And normally, when we were in the Rules Committee, it was actually a one-man committee. It was him who decided which rules must be amended and which ones should not be amended. And he would be saying to us, you young guys, you want to change a lot of things, you are not going to be changing the rules. So he was still playing the father figure when we were in the Rules Committee. Then, as we went on and he went to the Court of Appeal, in 2020, I was called to the Court of Appeal to go and serve in the session. And we were in the same panel with Judge Walia. We couldn't agree in one of the cases. And he was a bit unhappy with me. We had a discussion. He tried to convince me, but I couldn't agree with him. So at the end, he was now getting a bit angry, saying to me, Mr. K, you are a serial dissenter. You always don't want to agree with anybody. Then I said, but Judge, why don't you agree with me than yourself? Because it's either you agree or I don't agree with you. So that was him, but at the end, he was always the father figure that he was. But there's something else that I want to share with you. You know, as judges, we get criticized very much for our judgments. And Judge Walia was one of those judges who will get criticism because people didn't quite agree with him. But he took it in his stride, and he was always willing to serve, always wanting to do his best. And when it comes to his sense of independence, there was a time in Francistown, he was doing a case involving one of the judges. I was the registrar there. I went to him to say, but Judge, do you think you'll be able to do a case that involves your colleague? Then he said to me, no. There are three things that guide what I want to do. Firstly, is the Constitution. Secondly, it is my conscience. Thirdly, I have to look at the law as it is and decide a case. And he did that case and he finished it. I'm saying this because there has been some complaints. People will be saying, no, because Judge Walia worked at Armstrong's, he can't do case coming from that law firm. But what I can tell you is that he did those cases because he believed his conscience was very, very clear. And that the criticism that was out there against him, most of it was not justified. And I want to plead with, because the minister is here, that judges need some bit of protection. You need to speak on behalf of judges because we can only speak through our judgments. And when people disagree with us, they go to newspapers, they attack judges, and judges have got no way of speaking for themselves. And I'll plead with you that when you are out there, ensure that judges are protected. You speak on behalf of judges. And with this, I wish to thank the family and say, may the soul of our brother rest in peace.
Thank you very much, my Lord the Chief Justice, for those potent words. We proceed with the program, and at this juncture, I will call upon the President of the Court of Appeal, Honorable Justice Gaborone.
Your Lordship, the Chief Justice, the former Chief Justices, Reggie Butelo and Ranowani, the PSP and your Deputy, and all permanent secretaries here present, the Minister of State, President Ramu Hassa, members of the bereaved, the wife and kids and the brothers here present, let me stand on the established protocol. Bagaitsu Justice Walia was very close to my heart and I'm crushed. So let's call her come on. The 20th August 2025 will for a long time be remembered as the day in which death dealt a heavy blow upon the Botswana judicial system. We have indeed lost an enigma in Lakhvinder Singh Walia, a jurist of character who was principled, fearless and firm in his dispensation of justice. Although we can never dare say he was indispensable, we can say without hesitation that to find a person of his enviable character for the judicial space behind is almost an impossibility. He had his own unique character that made him special and the effective jurist he was. For those of us whom he has left behind can only attempt to emulate him, and I would encourage us to so do. That he leaves behind big and heavy judicial boots is undeniable. I say this because in all my experience of working with him, I have seen in him a human being first. He loved his work and valued the people he worked with in an amazing manner. His support staff had an empathetic father figure in their midst. He deeply cared about their welfare in and out of office. He celebrated with them during their happy days and grieved with them whenever nature precipitated affliction upon them. His closeness to his staff did not, however, compromise their productivity. They knew that he expected nothing less than timeliness in the delivery of targeted work outputs. No wonder his judgments were always delivered in accordance with the dates he had determined for his court cases. He leaves behind no outstanding judgments as far as we know. Walia J.A. colleagues, justices of appeal, because of his frankness and ethical uprightness. He was a fearless and principled jurist who was unshakable in his pursuit of what he believed to be the truth. As one of the justices who joined the Court of Appeal during its formative days, I can confidently state that his professional character has contributed in a significant way to the formidable base of the Apex Court. We are surely going to miss him in action, and I believe members of the bar are similarly going to feel the weight of his absence. He leaves behind a legacy that fortunately is captured in our law reports, as well as in the hearts of all of us who closely interacted with him. Our tea times at the Court of Appeal are never going to be the same again. His demise has robbed us of the jokes and the interjections that serenaded our break time discussions. Each one of us at the Court of Appeal was uniquely labeled by Walia J.A., and that sustained the jovial mood that obtained during our relaxed times. He called me to MF. Don't ask me what that means, but that basically means that I was the most favored, double favored among the jurists at the Court of Appeal. He called some of us cattle baron, son-in-law, aunties, and so forth and so on. With that, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I'm only left to say Walia J.A. has run his race graciously by fulfilling the purpose for which he was called. As we remind ourselves of his selfless life, let us remember his wife, immediate family, and relatives, and pray to God that he should strengthen and comfort them to withstand the understandably immense grief and pressure unleashed by Walia J.A.'s sudden demise and departure from this world. May Walia J.A.'s soul rest in eternal peace. Thank you.
Thank you, my lady. I now wish to call to the podium Honorable Justice Mr. Dedi.
Thank you, Mr. Murabe. Can't I use this too? This one. I'll go for it. Okay.
Good afternoon. All protocol observed, except that I'd like to acknowledge first and foremost the Walia family, particularly Mrs. Walia, her sons and daughters-in-law and grandchildren who are here with us this afternoon. And I would like to acknowledge all dignitaries in their various capacities, from the Honorable Minister of State, the Honorable CJ, the Honorable Judge President, my Chief Justices. I will also want to acknowledge here present Neil Armstrong, who is one of the people who has worked with Good Walia for a very long time as a partner. Ladies and gentlemen, we congregate here today in solemnity of loss and remembrance. We mark the loss of one of this country's longest-serving judges and a man of formidable legal acuity, Lakhvinder Singh Walia, whom we just affectionately referred to as Gudu. I stand here in humility to say a few words in memory of this legal giant. I first got to know Justice Walia about 40 years ago. That must have been around 84, 85. I was at the time a young government lawyer in the deeds office. He was already a seasoned legal practitioner in private practice, a conveyancer and a notary public. It was in his capacity as a conveyancer and notary public that he used to attend at the deeds registry office for registration of deeds, deed search, and related matters. These interactions were usually brief and purely formal. We had a little further interaction a year or so ago when I later left government service and also joined private practice. He was then, if my memory serves me well, a partner in the law firm Armstrong's in partnership with Neil, where he was renowned for his grasp of commercial law, conveyancing, and notary practice. My contemporaries and that law firm at the time were John Kahatley and Ibrahim. In April 2001, about 2 months after my appointment as a judge of the High Court, Justice Walia was appointed as an acting judge of the same court. It was here, in the halls of justice, that I got to know him as a colleague. At the time he joined, the High Court bench was small in number, under the then Chief Justice, Julian Mukwesu Ganunu. Other local judges were Ian Stewart Keddy, who was later to become the first citizen president of the Court of Appeal and led it with distinction for more than a decade. The others were Justice J.Z. Musojani, Justice Marupindi Butelo, who was later also to rise, and he succeeded Nganunu as the Chief Justice. There were also Unity Dow, Moatudi Marumo, and Peter Collins, then an acting judge. We had a small number of not citizens. It was, as I said, a small bench with refreshing collegiality and, I must note, Most of these local judges were people with outstanding legal minds. For Justice Walia, that was the beginning of a long and distinguished judicial career, which spanned close to a quarter of a century, only to be cut short by his sudden and timely demise. May his soul rest in peace. The earlier speakers have already mentioned that he served in various places, including Francistown. He had a sharp, astute, and formidable legal mind, which at the beginning was more apparent in areas of his specialty, commercial transactions, company law, but later transcended to other areas of the law. This sharp mind was demonstrated in the first reported judgments shortly after he ascended, which were under his hand. Justice Walia was not only a distinguished jurist, he also played an important role in the formulation and amendment of the rules of court. During the critical period in the development of our judiciary, he sat in the Rules Committee as its chairperson, as the CJ has just alluded, and he was also part of the team in 2018 that amended and reformed the current rules of the Court of Appeal, which were published in October 2018. Justice Walia's distinguished judicial career was marked by hard work and singular dedication until the last days. This dedication prevailed even in the face of challenging health issues. He gave all he had, even driving himself to work on weekends when his health would ordinarily have required that he remain at home to rest. Justice Walia was elevated to the Court of Appeal in 2017, where his sharp mind and institutional knowledge of the judiciary was invaluable. At the time of his passing on, he was the third most senior member of the highest court of the land. I've had the privilege of sitting with him in many cases, including difficult and topical ones. His insights during the judges' debates on those cases, as well as from questions and interventions he made during legal argument or in hearings, were highly invaluable. Justice Walia was a firm believer in maintaining a high standard of performance and required the same of lawyers who appeared before him. He was stern. He brooked no sloppiness. Those who appeared before his court had to be prepared or face his chiding. In this, he was unique. This, however, earned him some detractors, and at times he was maligned, seemingly more than others. Some did this through the media. This was patently unfair, in that as a judge he could not defend himself against those attacks. He took all this outwardly with some equanimity and stoicism. I'm not saying this to say that judges are beyond reproach and criticism. All that I'm saying is that because judges cannot answer for themselves, attacks or criticisms must be well placed and must be pursued with sensitivity. Justice Walia had a writing skill which was admirable. His judgments were a model of clarity and crispness. He did not indulge in long-winded legal discourses whose expositions meander the legal landscape when the issues and their solutions lay in plain view. They were easy to read for any reader with sufficient proficiency in English. Once in a while, if I wrote a fairly long decision on a matter which he considered to have merited a fraction of that space, he did not hesitate to express his view openly on it. Of course, I always took them with good heart, knowing that no ill will was meant. Despite Justice Walia's outward sternness and his often frank expression of his views, some of which could have been considered, and I say politically incorrect, Justice Walia had a good heart. He loved the people around him, both in terms of joy and in terms of pain. He attended memorial services for health for staff members, even for those he did not personally know, and was fondly regarded across. I remember a number of occasions when I'll go to one of the nearby villages when there is a bereavement, and you will find him sitting silently outside the courtyard with other elderly men of the village in his quiet way. To those going through difficult times, especially health-related, he was often on hand with suggestions and references to medical experts whom he believed he could help. Justice Walia was a storyteller of good note, with an immense sense of humor and a very rich reservoir of stories and anecdotes to tell. I'm not going to regale you with those. He regaled us with stories of wildlife hunting. He since, maybe Mrs. Walia will confirm some other time, that he was an ardent hunter, and he knew a lot of areas around Francistown, as far as Matsitama, Naka, and Gweta, where he said they used to hunt. He also regaled us with stories of his experiences in Zambia and in early Botswana before the roads were tarred. His stories about how they would travel by rail to Mahalape were quite fascinating to indicate how rudimentary our development was at the time. At the Court of Appeal, Justice Walia was always conversational, from the small talk to serious matters. I must indicate that he was the same as he was at the High Court. We always knew that at tea time, Justice Walia would be there in his jolly self and in his chatty way. I recall that when I was still at the High Court, he used to call me the mayor of Mosetsi. How I became a mayor, I understood. But as time went on, then he changed. I later, when we met here, became his nephew, and then his son-in-law. I became his son-in-law, as I understand, because him and my father-in-law used to be very close buddies. So for that reason, he decided the title of father-in-law extended to him. I graciously accepted that relationship because for Gudu it always came with a lot of benefits. He would always ask after the family, how is my daughter-in-law? How is my son-in-law doing today? And so on and so forth. As the Judge President has mentioned, he had a nickname for everybody. And I'm not sure whether we all knew our nicknames. There was one who was referred to as the Cattle Baron because he was a farmer and he loved talking about his livestock. But all these were in good spirits. With all these positivities, he also had his sensitivities. I will just give one example. When we sit as panels to hear cases on appeal, there is usually a judge who is assigned as a scribe. If the panel agrees on the outcome and the reasons, the scribe would produce a draft which would circulate among the other members of the panel. They would each be entitled to make their own input into the draft and make corrections whenever they deem necessary. Though he welcomed corrections on substance, he always hated corrections which sought to change his style, because he believed it was not anybody's business to change his style, but the substance. I will briefly indicate that over the years, I became very, very close to Justice Walia, both at a collegiate level, as well as socially, at a personal level, and lately we became family friends. Our shared values in judicial understanding, approach to handling of cases, and I'll say this with utmost humility, modest lifestyles drew us together. We discussed many cases and sought each other's opinions frequently. Often we had tea or lunches together from the office. These get-togethers extended to our spouses, but that is a story for another occasion or day. And as I conclude, Justice Walia has left a void in the lives of many whom he touched. To his family, Mrs. Walia, Justice and your sons and daughters-in-law, Justice Walia's passing is not only a loss to you, but to the judiciary, to the legal fraternity, and to the country he served so well as a whole. Yet we all ought to be comforted that he gave a large part of his adult life to the service of this country, and he did so wholeheartedly. He would not have done so without the support of his dear wife, Teresa, and the family who stood by him until the last. For that, Teresa and the family, we thank you. The legacy of Justice Walia's contribution to the jurisprudence of this country will forever remain richly edged in the law reports of this country and be a reference point of learning which present and future generations of lawyers, judges, students, litigants, and other readers of the law will nourish themselves from its fountains. Justice Walia has fought a good fight. He has left a rich legacy in the law and in our memories. May his soul find eternal peace. Thank you.
Thank you, my Lord, for sharing about your interactions with Justice Walia. We proceed with the program, ladies and gentlemen, and I would like to call Mayor Enele Mabua to the podium. Enele.
Let me stand on the established protocol as I give my tribute to Justice Walia, the justice that I knew. I got to know Justice Walia in 2017 when I was transferred from the Regional Magistrate Court North, and he just got appointed to the Court of Appeal. I was told by one of my colleagues that the judge I will be working with was very strict. She said, "When only meaning you, the GWS girl, we don't know whether you will get along with him." Since I was also just settling in, I had our reliable Court of Appeal trolley in the office with me. She went on to say, "Remove that trolley. You will not like it." Well, Judge Walia came into the office that day. He greeted us. He said nothing about my trolley. He called us to his office, sat us down, and told us how he expected his office to run. He said, and I quote, "I expect you to be available at all times when I need assistance. That's it. Can you do that?" And we said yes. And that was the beginning of a beautiful, cordial work relationship with him. Contrary to what I was told about him, I got to know him as a very jovial man. Justice Walia operated on an open door policy. Since working with him, we have never had anyone call to make an appointment to see him. Never. We saw different people from all walks of life. Magistrates, workers of the administration of justice, members of the public, fellow judges, they'd walk into his office unannounced, just to stop by and say hi. I remember this one lady about his age who once came by unannounced as always. I asked him who she was, and he said, oh, I forgot her name, but she says we met sometime in Maung a long time ago. She is in town and thought she should stop by and say hi. I found that odd, but he thought it was a nice gesture. I asked him about the many people who visited him, and I learned that day that he mentors a lot of people. He said people would approach him, some lawyers, some magistrates, they would approach him and ask him to mentor them, and they would stop by from time to time. A role, might I add, that he played very well. Justice Walia was tolerant and accepting. Yes, I believe we all knew his religion. But I remember this one particular lady who came to see him. After some time, we heard her praying in chambers. In the mighty name of Jesus Christ. We were like, ooh. We waited for her to finish, and she left. I went in to ask him who she was, and he just said, this lady just called me out of the blues and said she wanted to preach the word of God to me and pray with me. And I said, sure, why not? And she came, prayed with me, and I thanked her. That's it. He was that kind of person. Justice Walia, that I knew, was generous and kind. He gave selflessly and expected nothing in return. On every one of his wedding anniversary, he was the one bringing goodies to the office for us to share amongst ourselves. He remembered all of our birthdays and brought us handwritten cards. He gifted his staff on Christmas, took them to Christmas lunches. He said it was like a norm. He's been doing that, or he was doing that from way back, since Francistown days, Lobatse days, even here in the Court of Appeal. Just last December, he threw a farewell party for his reporter who was retiring. When he had traveled to Australia to be with his kids, he would bring back some memorabilia for all his staff members and the justices of appeal. He would even bring cookies baked by his grandchildren to the office. He really loved his staff members, and he would sit down with each and every one of us and offer advice to us. He was genuinely interested in our lives and our families and cared to know how we were doing. He would even share his weekend plans with us. He loved golf. He loved playing golf. He loved fishing. If he goes to play golf on Monday, you'll hear about it. If he goes fishing, when he comes back, he'd share about it. We literally shared everything. I remember sometime last month during the just ended July session, I was miserable as I thought I had lost my phone. He noticed everything, nothing escaped him. He picked that up and asked why I looked gloomy. He used the word gloomy. I told him my 7-year-old had been playing with my phone over breakfast, and now I could not find the phone. And that I had called the teacher, and she says she does not remember where she has placed it. I told him this, and he somehow found this hilarious. I don't know why. He started laughing. So that day, every time I entered his office, he would say, "So, tell me, where's the phone? Have you found the phone?" And he'd start laughing. Later, when I went to pick up the kids, it turned out that she had placed it on top of her sister's bag, and the phone had slid onto her bag, and she almost got her in trouble. I updated him, and he exploded with laughter. And he went on to tell Justice Dambe, Justice Haraka about it in the corridor, and they just had a good laugh about it that day. He had a very soft heart. He had a soft heart. I saw him cry over the passing of his then court reporter, Josephine Muti, who passed on during the COVID era. He was really, really hurt, and he was not ashamed to shed a tear. He assisted the family when they needed help with funeral arrangements. He had a strong sense of community and attended funerals of those he knew. He visited his staff members when they were in confinement even. This is from Grace. She says that even when they were in confinement, when they were on leave at the hospital, Justice Walia would visit them to go and check on them. He kept in touch with those that he worked with and those that he had previously worked with. And lastly, I found him recently reading a newspaper tribute to Minister Chimbombi, just recently. And he had this to say, and I'll quote, "I wonder what they're going to say about me when I go. They'll probably say a lot of grass. Hey, I don't give a cat what they write. All I know is that I'm an honorable man. I have never cheated anyone, stolen or taken bribes, or dealt in corrupt practices. I sleep well at night knowing that I do not owe anyone anything. This country has done a lot for me, and I have given back through dedication to my work, and I am happy." This was him. To the Walia family, you have not only lost a loving husband and a father, we too have lost a father figure, a confidante, a compassionate, loving man, a mentor, a friend to many. May you all be comforted.
Thank you, Mema Bua, for those profound words, even though I had initially mispronounced your name. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish to draw you to yet another amendment. We will not be having the chairperson of the Law Society, Mr. Lesedi Moahi. We will be having a representative of the Law Society, Mr. Samuel Lachi. The floor is yours, sir.
Good afternoon. I would also like to stand on the established protocol. My name is Samuel Bokamplaki. I am standing in on behalf of the chairperson, Mr. Lesedi Moahi, who couldn't join us this afternoon. I am to honor Justice Walia on behalf of the Law Society and by extension members of the bar. I would like to just briefly share my first experience with Justice Walia when I was a baby lawyer. And yes, despite my size, at some point I was a baby lawyer. I was tinier than this. We are taught when we start practicing that when it's your first time appearing before a judge, the courteous thing is to go introduce yourself before you have your matter called. I'm not sure if it still happens with my juniors, but on that day my principals had been sure, or they had instilled in me, that you always have to introduce yourself if it's your first time appearing. I, of course, didn't take it too seriously, but for some reason on that day I made it a point to arrive an hour early, made it a point to go introduce myself in the judge's chambers. When court commenced, it It was motion court, one of my colleagues, whom we had started practicing around the same time. I would later learn didn't introduce himself. Now, Justice Walia, the High Court Justice Walia, as I remember him, had a very sharp memory. He could just look at you and say, I don't think you've ever been in my court before, and I don't think you introduced yourself. Unlucky for my colleague, Justice Walia took one look when the matter was called and berated him for failing to do the honorable thing of introducing himself. And he went in so far as to say, why couldn't you be like the other young man who had the courtesy to come early in the morning? Suffice to say, the court was not pleased with my colleague. I, of course, was pleased with myself because by inference, the court was pleased with me as well. I share this just to highlight that in as much as Justice Walia was firm in running his court, he wasn't firm because he wanted to be harsh or anything. He was firm because he wanted us to be the best that we can be. He wanted to see the best out of us. He was stern when it mattered. He demanded the best from those who appeared before him because he understood the weight of our work and the responsibility we carry towards society. Much has been said about Justice Walia's career, and you'll all glean from most of the speakers that they would highlight his firmness, his level of organization, and that's how I also choose to remember him. His judgments, his example, and his discipline leave behind a legacy that strengthens both the bench and the bar. And on behalf of the Law Society, we extend our deepest condolences to his family, to his colleagues, to those who knew him, to those who lived with him. May his soul rest in peace. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Blackie. May I remind you, ladies and gentlemen, for those who may not have heard the housekeeping rules, so that we have our phones muted throughout. I will now call upon a representative of the Walia family.
Thank you. All established acknowledgements and protocols have been made. I will not single anyone out again, but I acknowledge all dignitaries and thank you for your attendance. My father was larger than life. He devoted himself to his family and his country that he loved so much and served with honor and pride. For those who knew him, he was the ultimate storyteller, able to light up a room with a witty one-liner or an unforgettable tale, brilliantly true or unbelievably made up. He taught me and my brother so much about honesty, dignity, integrity, respect, and what it is to be a good person. This is how he lived his life, and this is a legacy he leaves behind. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. We seem to be doing very well with time. May we have a hymn, Justice for our choir. Thereafter, I will call upon Mr. Moffat Lubinda, who will be representing the Honorable Minister of Justice and Correctional Services. Thank you for such a beautiful melody. Re Lakhvinder.
My Lord the Chief Justice, allow me to stand on the protocol that has been established and also to single out in acknowledgement the Walia family, the former Chief Justices, Justice Dibotelo and Justice Ranowani, the President of the Court of Appeal, the Attorney General, the Permanent Secretary to the President and her Deputy, my lords and ladies of the Court of Appeal, of the High Court as well as of the Industrial Court, I stand on behalf of the Honorable Nelson Ramotwana, Minister of Justice and Correctional Services, and I stand to read what he would have spoken to you this afternoon. It is with heavy hearts that we are gathered here today to reflect on the life and legacy of Justice of Appeal, Honorable L.S. Walia. His passing is a great loss to the family, legal fraternity, and the nation at large. Justice Walia was an eminent jurist. In his earlier career, Justice Walia was a senior partner at Walia and Company. He later joined the Armstrong and Company law firm. Justice Walia was first appointed acting judge of the High Court in April 2001 and was appointed as judge of the High Court on the 1st of January 2003, where he served with distinction in Francistown, Lobatse, Gaborone branches of the High Court. Justice Walia ascended to the Court of Appeal on the 1st January 2017, where he served with other luminaries like Honorable Justice Ian Kebi, Honorable Justice Lesetedi, Honorable Justice Monamezi Kaungalelwi, Honorable Justice Latile Dambe, and Honorable Zibani Makwade. At the time he joined the Court of Appeal, he was one of the first 6 local justices of appeal. The court was augmented by 3 visiting judges that were not ordinarily resident in the country. The people that interacted closely with Justice Walia described him as a stickler for rules, which created a stable and predictable environment in both his court and his chambers. Justice Walia held the ethics of the legal profession in high esteem. Likewise, he expected the same of attorneys and advocates who appeared in his chambers. One of the things that we as legal professionals can learn from his component is his public and private life, is that he carried himself with impeccability. Because of his steadfast nature, there was no distinction between his public persona and his private life. He was set in his standards and they served him well. It is sad to lose someone that so many people looked up to. He touched many lives in his quiet way. As practitioners, we could count on him to provide direction. He was dependable and provided stability even in the most challenging of matters. Though Justice Walia was a bit advanced in age, he surely kept up with the times. He was looking up to a time when the courts would be fully digitized. Justice Walia realized that if the court were to go digital, this would make the work of the courts easier and would ensure the speedy dispensation of justice a reality for the members of the public. Though we have lost a giant, we are comforted by the memories that we have of him and the rich legacy that he leaves behind. Let us remember the good times that we have had with him and thank the Lord for the gift of life and the gift that he had given to us. We thank the Almighty God for making this ceremony possible. We thank the President for making time to attend the ceremony spiritually. We thank you all for attending the service to offer your condolences to the Walia family, his colleagues and staff of the administration of justice, and may the soul of the jurist rest in peace. I thank you.
Thank you, Lakhvinder. We are now drawing towards the end of our program. At this juncture, I wish to call upon the Minister for State President, Moeti Caesar Muhasa.
Ke tsaya gore setse go dumedisitswe, but it will be proper to acknowledge the Walia family le batotegi botlhe ba le legang. It is both a privilege and a solemn duty that I stand before you today on behalf of the President of the Republic of Botswana to pay a tribute to a man whose presence in the judiciary has left an enduring legacy, Honorable Justice Singh Walia. Though the President and the Minister of Justice could not be with us physically today, they have both served with Justice Walia in legal fraternity and knew him not just as a jurist, but as a man of unshakable integrity, firm principles, and quiet excellence. They had heartfelt condolences to the Walia family and to all who worked alongside him in the pursuit of justice. Justice Walia's passing is not only a loss to the bench and bar, it is a loss to the entire Republic. His journey from private practice to the highest court of the land reflects a story of discipline, service, and patriotism. He was a man who believed that law must not stand still. His embrace of court digitalization, even in his later years, was not just a signal of progress, but of vision. It was his belief that justice must not evolve, but it should meet the people where they are. As government, we view the judiciary not just as an institution, but as a cornerstone of democracy. This is what Justice Walia embodied. He ensured that the law did not just serve the privileged few, but all Botswana. This is the justice system we strive to strengthen, one that is fair, accessible, and unshakably independent. And so today, we are not just we are not here in memory of a judge. We are honoring a man who helped shape the moral and legal compass of our nation. In times of uncertainty, he brought clarity. In times of complexity, he brought reason. His courtroom was a place where justice was not just his courtroom was a place where justice was not delayed nor denied, but diligently delivered. Justice Walia may not have been known for flamboyance, but in his quiet strength, he commanded respect across all sectors. As a leader in government, I can attest to this. This is the kind of servant Botswana needs, one who serves not for applause, but for impact. To the legal fraternity, may you carry forward the spirit of discipline and excellence that Justice Walia has exemplified. To the Walia family, know that his legacy is not confined to memory alone, but is alive in every courtroom, every judgment, and every lawyer inspired by his example. To the nation, we are reminded that greatness is not always loud. Sometimes it speaks in firm judgments, in late nights of legal drafting, in mentoring junior lawyers, and in service without spectacle. On behalf of the President of the Republic of Botswana, on behalf of Honorable Minister of Justice, on behalf of this nation, we thank you, Justice Walia. Thank you for your years of service, for your steadfastness, and for your enduring contribution to the rule of law in Botswana. May your soul rest in perfect peace, and may your legacy guide those you are leaving behind and others who will come after you. Radabo.
Thank you, Minister Mwasa, for those potent remarks. I will now call the last speaker, Honorable Judge, President of the High Court, Barnabas Nyamazabo.
Yes, let me stand by the protocol that has been observed. And in a special way, let me recognize the presence of the bereaved family. Director of Ceremony, let me confirm that I'm representing my colleagues at the High Court, their lordships and ladyships, and also staff of the High Court. The High Court has lost a former colleague in the person of the late Justice Walia, who spent most of his long judicial career in the High Court. While at the High Court, Justice Walia exhibited, as has been said by the various speakers who came before me, an exemplary work ethic. In so doing, he embodied a spirit of service and loyalty to his judicial oath. He gave intellect and energy in the service of this country in strengthening its democracy. His decisions, therefore, will continue to shape our jurisprudence in the many years and generations to come. I have had some of my judgments come before Justice Walia, both when I was a magistrate and also when I was a judge, when he was a judge here at the High Court, and later when he became a judge of the Court of Appeal. In one of those judgments, i.e. one of these cases, the magistrate court, I had written more than 100 pages of what I considered at the time to be a good judgment. On appeal, however, he dispatched my judgment just in less than 20 pages. So the point that I want to make is that he was emphasizing to me, and I believe to others also, that what is important is quality over quantity. In this regard, those who have read his judgment know that he mostly ruled very short judgments, but without sacrificing quality. While some attorneys may have perceived, as I said, him to be one of the most strict judges on the bench, I believe all he wanted to do was to apply the rules of the court to the letter, and also expected those who appeared before him to play by the rules by adequately preparing for their cases before they came to the court. So the late judge had also a softer side to him. When some of us were newly appointed to the High Court bench, he often teased us that we were baby judges who were going to take many years
to learn the ropes of being judges. With these few remarks, ladies and gentlemen, let me join our judiciary and the nation at large in mourning our departed Justice of Appeal. May the family find comfort knowing that his work touched many and that his work will never forgotten. And lastly, may his soul rest in peace.
Thank you, my Lord. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of the program. Before I call upon the Justice Chorale to give us a hymn, I would like to thank you for managing the time very well. And thereafter, we will have a closing prayer by Mr. Ben Sefapo. But I need to emphasize that once we conclude, our guests will be the first to leave. Thereafter, everyone else may leave. Thank you very much. Justice Chorale.
To assure you that we are working really hard to strengthen the BPSI such that we not only improve its working, but we're also able to ensure its independence. This